in interesting times. Today's stories. COVID vaccine scam targets seniors in Alberta. Toronto's Black communities are disproportionately affected and impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. BC continues to support businesses to launch online. President Biden arrives at State Department ahead of first foreign policy speech. Uncertainty doubts for Japan's Olympic fans. In sports, Diana Taurasi agrees to multi-year contract with Phoenix Mercury. And Canadian creates spectacular snowshoe art. Hello everyone, you're watching Eagle News International from Canada. I'm Tiffany Sassis reporting from Calgary, Alberta, bringing you stories from across the globe. In Alberta, some seniors are being targeted by COVID vaccine scams. Eagle News correspondent Thomas Likeness reports.
Scammers and grifters are always looking for ways to make money off of people's troubles, and the pandemic is no exception. Their cons evolve more quickly than the COVID virus mutates. The latest scheme to steal from seniors comes in the form of a vaccine scam. Because of delivery problems, Canada's not getting the amount of vaccine originally promised, and that means seniors over the age of 75 who were told they would be immunized this month will have to wait. And Dr. Dina Hinshaw says con artists have apparently figured out a way to cash in on this.
AHS has received reports of some people over 75 receiving phone calls telling them that they can book their COVID-19 immunization for a fee. This is not a legitimate claim. This is a scam.
Hinshaw says due to limited vaccine supply coming into the province, they're not yet able to inoculate all Albertans over the age of 75. And she says when more vaccine becomes available, it will be free of charge. Neither Alberta Health Services nor any other community provider will ever ask for payment of the vaccine. Hinshaw says people who receive these calls should hang up immediately and report them to police. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Trudeau says despite getting fewer doses of the vaccine from drug companies, he still believes the government can meet its target of having enough vaccine to immunize all Canadians by the end of September. Trudeau tap-danced around reporters' questions about smaller shipments, suggesting people should not be worried about the delays in the government's vaccine rollout.
That's why there's a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of noise going on right now. That's why I want to reassure Canadians that we are on track.
Trudeau says he speaks regularly with the CEOs of Pfizer and Moderna, and he says they've assured him they will live up to their promise of shipping a combined 6 million doses to Canada by the end of March. But what the Prime Minister doesn't provide us with is how he will deal with vaccine nationalism. This is a trend that's growing in Europe, where countries want to limit exports of vaccines to some other countries. Canada, incidentally, is not on Europe's exemption list. But Trudeau seems willing to place his trust in the word of people who are telling us everything will be fine. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Toronto's Black communities are disproportionately affected and impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Eagle News correspondent April Masungsong reports.
Toronto's Black communities are disproportionately affected and impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. A recent study revealed that racialized groups account for 79% of COVID cases in Toronto. Black people of African and Caribbean descent make up the highest rates of COVID-19 cases in the city, at 26%, though they only represent 9% of the city's population. In addition, 30% of those who express that they are hesitant to take the vaccines are Black. Black people also account for 24% of COVID-19 related hospitalizations. On Wednesday, Toronto Mayor John Tory released the city's plan to provide better support for Black communities in Toronto. Here is the mayor with more details.
The city has invested $6.8 million in funding and partnered with 12 community agencies to provide this kind of targeted outreach and support to the top 10 neighborhoods with the highest percentage of Black Torontonians and the highest COVID-19 case rates. And the kinds of supports we're talking about include increases in culturally responsive mental health supports. This is vitally important in and of itself. Food access and food security assistance, mobile and community-based testing, mobile services to support seniors and people with disabilities, and these are things like food delivery or wellness checks, a commitment to continue advocating for income support and housing security, some of those supports we've been advocating for during the course of the pandemic and of course before and after as well, and coordinating health policies, programs and provisions targeted to the Black communities in the City of Toronto and for that matter beyond.
To address the vaccine hesitancy among Black Torontonians, the city has also developed the Black Scientist Task Force on Vaccine Equity, which includes Black scientists and Black health experts. Take a look.
The task force, which includes Toronto Public Health and many of Canada's top Black scientists involved in key aspects of vaccine development and Black public health, will review the major concerns and the issues around COVID-19 testing and the levels of vaccine acceptance, and develop public health recommendations to effectively address the concerns of Black residents and the concerns they have, especially as regards the vaccine.
According to Toronto's Board of Health Chair, Joe Cressy, we know that access to decent housing, good jobs, and health services are the factors that have long determined who gets sick, who lives, and who dies. The disproportionate impact of COVID on racialized people, and especially Black communities, is structural racism in real time. It's up to all levels of government to do everything we can to address these glaring health inequities and right these wrongs. In Toronto, April Masongsong, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
BC continues to support businesses to launch online. Eagle News correspondent Kathleen Cruz with the details.
The province of British Columbia launches a new project called Launch Online Grant Program as part of BC's $10 billion COVID-19 Response Economic Recovery Plan. It is designed to assist over 1,500 eligible small and medium-sized businesses to market their products online, increase revenues, and recover the loss during these times of pandemic. COVID-19 has driven consumers to adapt to digital world and shift towards online shopping. As in-store sales decrease, e-commerce sales increase. This consumer behavior has geared most businesses to sell their products online. The BC government is investing $12 million to help businesses. Minister of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation Ravi Kalan mentioned that, quote, "This program will provide business owners with ability to expand their online presence and create customized e-commerce site that will give them the boost they need to keep moving forward," unquote. Business owners in sectors such as retail, tourism, and restaurants can receive up to $7,500, which can be used to a variety of online-related expenses, advertising, and subscription costs to manage their own websites. In Vancouver, Kathleen Cruz, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Canada extends the ban on cruise ships operating in Canadian waters until 2022. Here's Eagle News correspondent Vanessa Condi with more.
The Minister of Transport, Honourable Omar Al-Gabra, announced that there has been an extension of the ban on cruise ships until 2022. The ban came into effect last May. Cruise ships carrying 100 or more people are banned from operating in Canadian waters until February 28, 2022. Adventure-seeking pleasure crafts are still prohibited from entering Arctic waters. Passenger vessels carrying more than 12 people are still prohibited from entering Arctic coastal waters also. The Minister of Transport has said, temporary prohibitions to cruise vessels and pleasure crafts are essential to continue to protect the most vulnerable among our communities and avoid overwhelming our healthcare systems. This is the right and responsible thing to do. There are several fines for those who do not comply for the pleasure craft prohibition. They could be subject to penalties of $5,000 per day for individuals and $25,000 per day for groups or corporations. And those who do not comply with the passenger vessel prohibition could be liable on summary conviction to a fine of up to $1 million or imprisonment for a term of up to 18 months, or both. They are also encouraging residents to avoid all travel on cruise ships outside Canada until further notice. In Victoria, BC, Vanessa Condi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
The Canadian government is supporting projects to encourage COVID-19 vaccine uptake within the country. Eagle News correspondent Andrea Lachua reports.
The Government of Canada supports projects to encourage vaccines uptake in Canada. The Minister of Health, Honorable Patty Ledoux, announced the investment of more than $64 million through the IPF, or Immunization Partnership Fund, to help partners across Canada increase COVID-19 vaccinations uptake. The funding includes $3.5 million for projects led by the community to increase vaccine confidence by addressing gaps in knowledge, attitude, and beliefs related to vaccinations. According to the government, this funding will be used also to develop tailored target tools and educational resources to raise awareness and confidence for the COVID-19 vaccines. The funds will also support the effort the community members and leaders increase vaccine confidence and address barriers to access and acceptance within their community. The announcement also includes $3.5 million for both provincial and territorial government to enhance their electronic vacations, registrations, and approve tracking of the vaccines uptake across Canada. For each province and territory, they will receive up to $2.5 million in funding from now through March 2023. Vaccines are important and effective way to protect Canadians and stop the spread of COVID-19. Working with our partners, we will make sure that the Canadians have the latest information about how and when they can get vaccinated, but also why they should get vaccinated. Through those partnerships, we are assuring that Canadians make sure to be informed and confident vaccines choices for themselves and their families. Increasing vaccinations uptake and acceptance is how we can work together to protect those who are at risk. The Honorable Patty Ledoux, Minister of Health, all Canadians deserve a chance to achieve optimal health. This includes having access to credible information about vaccinations and the opportunity to have an open conversation with healthcare providers. Doctors, nurses, midwives, other healthcare providers, and community leaders are available to assuring knowledge to help to keep us all safe, especially during a pandemic. This is André Lajoie for Eagle News in Ottawa, Canada. We live in interesting times.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris arrive at the State Department, where Biden will give his first foreign policy speech. President Joe Biden is ending U.S. military support for the war by its Saudi allies in Yemen. The White House said Thursday ahead of the Democrats' first major foreign policy speech. The end on U.S. military support for the Saudi-led coalition fighting in Yemen reverses former President Donald Trump's policy of providing logistical assistance and selling huge amounts of advanced weaponry such as precision-guided bombs. Signaling Washington's new approach to the war, which has led to humanitarian crisis, the Biden administration is also appointing a Yemen envoy, Timothy Lenderking said, a person familiar with the matter. Biden will talk about the United States playing a more active and engaged role to the diplomacy to bring an end to the conflict, Sullivan said. Biden will also freeze plans set in motion by Trump to reduce the U.S. troops' presence in Germany, which has been a cornerstone of NATO's security since the start of the Cold War. Trump's decision was seen as linked to his tense relationship with Germany and the European Union over trade issues, but sparked concerns that he was weakening the West's security in the face of the resurgent Russia. Biden has quickly toughened Washington's posture towards Moscow. He's blaming the Kremlin for a massive cyber attack and U.S. presidential election meddling, and also calling out Russia over the jailing of Alexei Navalny, one of the few remaining opponents of President Vladimir Putin. In excerpts of the speech released by the White House, Biden will call for renewed alliance building and U.S. leadership on the world stage. We must meet this new moment of accelerating global challenges, from a pandemic to the climate crisis to nuclear proliferation, challenges that will only be solved by nations working together in common causes, Biden says. Over the past 2 weeks, I've spoken with the leaders of many of our closest friends: Canada, Mexico, the UK, Germany, France, NATO, Japan, South Korea, and Australia, to begin reforming the habits of cooperation and rebuilding the muscles of the democratic alliances that have atrophied from the 4 years of neglect and abuse, Biden was to say. With less than 6 months to go, Japanese who hope to be involved in the Tokyo Olympics as spectators, torchbearers, and volunteers are confronting the prospects of the Games being drastically scaled back or cancelled altogether.
一生に一度、しかも日本のオリンピックじゃないとできないんで、他の海外だとね自分たちできないから、日本のオリンピックで聖火ランナーっていうのはもうこれはもうほぼ今後ありえないんじゃないかと思うんでね、まあできればやりたいですね。
無観客で行う東京オリンピックはそうなってしまった時はそれができないってことですよね。だから、今までと同じようにテレビで見るっていうような感覚になってしまうのかなっていうのはあります。ましてお客さんたちっていうか観客がいないということは静かですよね。だから周りのその応援もなくどういうオリンピックになるのかなっていうのはやってみて見てみないとわからないなと思っています。
Coming up, in sports, Diana Taurasi agrees to multi-year contract with Phoenix Mercury. And Canadians create spectacular snowshoe art. Eagle News International continues after this.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced. Not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas. A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to Explain our help outdoor track.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News International from Canada. I'm Tiffany Elisasas from Calgary, Alberta. WNBA superstar Diana Taurasi resigns with the Phoenix Mercury signing a multi-year contract. Eagle News correspondent Tenny Somagi has the details.
WNBA superstar Diana Taurasi will enter her 17th season, all with the Phoenix Mercury. The 38-year-old veteran guard signed a multi-year contract on Monday and explains her loyalty to the organization.
You know, the minute I got drafted in Phoenix, I knew it was a place I was going to be for a long time, but like we know in the sports world and just life in general, you don't know where it takes you sometimes. So, you know, to be able to be with an organization that, you know, is as loyal as, you know, I think I've been to them, you don't see that very often. And that's a strong bond that I take very serious. It's one of the things that just throughout my life, being, you know, loyal through thick and thin, through ups and downs, it makes the moments that much more special, especially with people that you've done it with the whole, you know, 15 years, 16 years now that I've been in actually now 17 years I've been in Phoenix. And, you know, it means a lot to be in one place. You know, when they say my name, I want them to say Phoenix Mercury and vice versa. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Tune in to Eagle News for more stories and highlights on the WNBA. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
On frozen lakes and snow-covered fields in Canada's wilds, magnificent geometric formations have suddenly appeared. The work of a retired headmaster in snowshoes, seeking to beat pandemic doldrums with art. Kim Asimim started last year and has so far made 20 snowshoe artworks in and around the town of Shibeer, Ontario, about 1,200 kilometers, 750 miles northwest of Toronto. As Musin said, he uses drafting software to create designs and mapping tools to scope out suitable locations to use as canvases. Then, with a compass, a rope for measuring, and a team of friends or local students, he sets about stamping out shapes in snow, which can take up to 3 days depending on their size and intricacy. As Musin said, he got the idea while researching snow sculptures online and landed on snowshoe art by the acclaimed artist Simon Beck, whose work have graced the mountainsides of Banff National Park, including a giant snowflake, a wolf, and a maple leaf. Several friends who were prevented from taking their usual winter holidays in sunbelts this year because of travel restrictions, volunteered to help. Asmussen said he'd like to involve more people to help pack the snow, but local pandemic restrictions in place since only December permit a maximum of 5 to gather in groups outside. He is looking to involve more schools and set up a snowshoe art festival and is scouting locations near the Trans-Canada Highway to showcase artworks to passing truckers and tourists. Ideally, he said there needs to be 15 to 30 centimeters of snow, 6 to 12 inches of fresh snow in which to mark out a design. Most last only a few days before being covered up by the next snowfall. We end our program today with some music. Here is Carl and Shira Dabu's cover of Shallow from the soundtrack A Star is Born.
Tell me something, girl. Are you happy in this modern world? Or do you need more? Is there something else you're searching for? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change. And in the bad times I fear myself. Tell me something, boy. I'm too tired trying to fill that void. Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change. And in the bad times I fear myself. I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash through the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. In the shallow. In the shallow. In the shallow. We're far from the shallow now. We're far from the shallow now. In the shallow. In the shallow. In the shallow. We're far from the shallow now.
That's our program for today. Join us again next week as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I am Tiffany Elisasis. We live in interesting times.